Patrick. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for joining us today. I can't hear myself like I could earlier. Can you hear me? Okay, good. All right. So I'm Lisa Johnson. I am the President and CEO of the Bossier Chamber of Commerce. And as I look around the room today, this has been really exciting to put this event together. And I've been sharing with our speakers and all, I'm like, this is not our typical normal crowd. We have some really, really engaged business folks and civic leaders that are here in the audience with us today. So we're glad to be hosting this event on a topic that we all know is critical to the success of Bossier City and Bossier Parish and all of our state as a whole. Before we get started with all of our speakers, I would like to ask you to join me in welcoming the following dignitaries that have joined us today. And I will hopefully, because there's quite a few of you, will make sure that I cover everyone. First, we'd like to welcome representing U.S. Senator John Kennedy's office, John Barr, right here in the front. Representing Senator Cassidy's office, Stephanie McKenzie. Representing Congressman Mike Johnson's office, Pam Graw. And then here at the local level, we have our very own Bossier Parish Sheriff, Sheriff Julian Whittington. And representing Representative Raymond Cruz's office, Allie Smith. Representing the city of Bossier City, our new CAO, Amanda Nottingham. Representing Bossier Parish, we have quite a few dignitaries from the Bossier Parish level. We have our Parish Administrator, Bill Altimus, holding up the back of the room. And we have police jury, men and women. We have Juliana Parks with us. Philip Rogers. And Charles Gray. I know I saw him, there he is. Okay, I think that covers everyone. If I have missed an elected official, my apologies. Or raise your hand and you can call me out. I don't care. Okay. All right. Someone else that's really important to us, I see in the audience over here, is Carlotta Eskew, who's with our Metropolitan Planning Commission at Mississippi. So again, I'd like to take a little time to thank our sponsors and thank you again all for being here today. Without these businesses stepping up, we wouldn't be able to host events like this one. So as you've already met Patrick Glatt, who is the CEO and President of Barksdale Federal Credit Union, they are our presenting sponsor today. So thank you very much to Barksdale Federal Credit Union for always stepping up to the plate. Our speaker sponsor today is Roseneath Funeral Home. Thank you so very much, Margaret. And our gold sponsors are BOM Bank, Citizens National Bank, Neil Irwin Law, and Northwestern State University. Let's give them all a round of applause and thank you for hosting us. As you see, we have a head table full of very good speakers today. We're going to start our program today at a state level. We're going to come down regional, then we're going to come down to Bossier Parish and Bossier City. And our keynote today is our State Secretary of the Department of Transportation. And I would like to ask Margaret Sheehy with Roseneath to come up and introduce our keynote speaker today. Margaret?
Thank you, Lisa. And again, what a great crowd this is today. It's always nice when you can introduce.
I don't think you can hear. Let me see.
We heard you.
I know, you heard me because y'all be nice.
She broke it.
I did not.
You bought it. Here comes some coffee.
It's red. It appears maybe our cookie on mute or could not be on. Just for the record, I was not a cheerleader in high school, okay? I'm just loud.
You're loud.
Well, we can play the spoons, we can tell a joke. What would you like to do while we're sitting up here?
You want? Or we could sing.
We could sing. What would y'all like us to do? Tell what would you like us to do?
There we go.
There we go.
Back at this.
Sounds like he's got it.
You're gonna let her touch it? I wouldn't.
No. See, I told y'all I didn't think I could hear myself. Okay. Without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce to you our speaker sponsor, Miss Margaret Sheehy with Bresney. Margaret?
Yay! Thank you, Lisa. And I start to say, like it's only the first row, you can hear it's always a pleasure to introduce a friend. And Sean Wilson is certainly a friend of this area and a friend of me, and he knows there is life above I-10. Would you agree with that, Mr. Secretary? He is serving his second term as Secretary of the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development, DOTD, with more than 21 years of executive service. Under his leadership thus far, DOTD has ushered in project delivery and finance innovations, including public-private partnerships with construction risk projects. From 2016 to 2022 with his leadership, DOTD will have been awarded more than, and the next word's going to start with a B, 4.2 billion with a B in construction.
Yeah.
Dr. Wilson is a member of the Transportation Research Board Executive Committee and serves as Vice President of the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials. He earned his bachelor's degree in urban and regional planning from the University of Louisiana and holds a Master of Public Administration degree as well as a PhD. When did you find time to work when you're just going off to school and have kids? In public policy from the Nelson Mandela School of Public Policy at Southern University. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Sean Wilson.
Thank you for that introduction, and thank you, Lisa, for the invitation. You know, it's no secret that I've been up here many, many times. One of the first meetings I did as secretary was not too far from here, and we talked about Barksdale and that interchange. And there was a time I could come and speak and just say Barksdale and sit down, but now that it's almost finished, I have to talk about something else. The something else I'm going to talk a little bit about, it's going to be infrastructure, it's going to be transportation, but before I do that, I will tell you a lot of the success that I've enjoyed as secretary is in large part because of Lisa. I say that because she has been a huge supporter of all things that's moving Bossier and Northwest Louisiana forward, and has always been an engaged advocate. So thank you for what you do in Baton Rouge on behalf of this community, and thank you for welcoming me here. A couple of things, two things. One is the Jimmy Davis Bridge, because that is something that we have authority and resources to address. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And then I'm going to also talk about IJIT, EHOC, whatever you want to call it. It's the worst acronym for a federal bill, but it's a good bill, and it's called the Infrastructure Investment in Jobs Act. It's an amazing instrument that I want to share some things with you just so that you can be aware of what you get. We're not here to bring good news and bad news, but to bring facts and information, and that's what we're going to share. First, let's talk a little bit about the Jimmy Davis Bridge. Give you a brief history. This bridge has been one that we have been needing to work on for quite some time. The environmental study was completed to add a second structure, 2 lanes that would have been westbound in terms of its nature. It was a rehabilitation project on the existing structure, which was canceled. We learned about the importance of barn swallows and what their life cycles are, when you can move them and when you can't. I have enjoyed duck hunting already, but they told me that would not be allowed on this bridge. So we talked about trying to go back and do the right thing. And the environmental reevaluation after that because we were attempting to pass a revenue package that would have allowed us to build a new 4-lane bridge. But we have now reevaluated and have an alternative that's a 4-lane bridge and a 2-lane structure. Remember, the 2-lane structure was going to maintain the existing bridge. There's no doubt for the need of this project. This project has seen increased traffic over those lanes on 511. This will improve the mobility from US 71 to Barksdale Boulevard. We understand the value of a river and the need to connect across it. We also see a need for connecting bicycle and pedestrian paths across the Red River. On both sides of this location, you have a linear park. And parks have become much more important in our lifestyle, especially given this pandemic. We all have found those COVID-19 pounds, but we also found a way to get outside. And we found a way to enjoy ourselves on bicycles. And that's another increasingly important mode of transportation. And so any infrastructure project that we're going to build, we're going to attempt to do what's called complete streets and add bicycle lanes where possible. The completed LA 511 interchange with the Ray T Parkway and the Clyde Front Parkway will be the final product, and it is a fully funded project. When I say fully funded project, you should know that we don't have the final price tag yet. So while we have the $100 million and we're going to add resources to that, we don't have the final price. Why do you ask? Because inflation on construction is about 2.25%. That's pretty significant over the course of time. It is not uncommon for departments of transportation to have projects come in a little bit more expensive than what we anticipated. So how are we going to deliver this project? We're going to deliver this project using design build. Design build will allow us to have a single contractor that is comprised of a contractor and an engineer and all of the elements necessary for completing this project. So if you ask me if I have a full set of plans today for this bridge, I do not. We will have a full set of plans when we identify the contractor for this. The contractor will hold the contract with the designer. The designer will work with the department and with the community in some cases to deliver the project. And they're afforded the opportunity to make modifications to the environmental document if it's low risk, but they're also given the chance to add additional value to the community, and we're going to talk a little bit about that because I'm very proud of where this bridge is taking us to. Before I talk about what that is, we have an issue of a two-step process, one where we ask all of our teams to come in and provide their qualifications, and then we narrow the field. We're going to narrow the field from the 9 applicants, I believe, that we've received letters of interest from, down to a reasonable number, and those will be the ones that will submit what's called a request for proposal. And then we're going to score their request for proposal based on their innovations, based on their qualifications, based on their technical experience, and any other value-added element that we want to contribute to this process. It's a new thing for construction, but we've done about 10 of these design-build projects. And we've contracted over $2 billion, if I'm not mistaken, using this methodology, and it works. Look no further than the Barksdale Interchange. That was a design-build project. Loyola Interchange in New Orleans, design-build project. Bellchase Bridge and Tunnel, P3, design-build project. So we've done that. What's exciting about this project, and the reason why we are moving toward a 4-lane structure and not just a 2-lane structure, is because the Jimmy Davis Bridge, as we know it today, is considered historic. When it's historic, I've got 2 options. I can either maintain the structure, or I can preserve it and give it to someone else. No one wants to have a bridge that big in their backyard. I, on the other hand, can't necessarily own a bridge I don't want to use because of the challenges associated with that. So we've come up with an innovative tool, and I'm happy to tell you, we're breaking new ground in Louisiana with this community because we approach the community to say, listen, if we can build you a 4-lane bridge and we can maintain your 2-lane structure, would you be willing to operate and own that structure once it's done? We're not asking you to own a bridge, but we're asking you to own a park. We're asking you to connect 2 parkways with this structure. We're going to fix it, we're going to paint it, we're going to change the pavement on it, and we're going to give it to the locals. It's a wonderful example of partnership. And I've got a couple of pictures in here I'm going to show you. We're going to talk about artistic elements, green elements. You will determine the level of service of that park, as well as the management of how it's used during special events. One of our great partners is Eric England over at the port, and they are creating an economic development corporation that will receive this asset. It's going to be a joint effort between Caddo and Bossier and several other partners in this community, and it's going to become a bridge parkway. This is the footprint. We had 17 LOIs, I'm sorry about that. We had 17 LOIs that came in on the 14th, and I thought my pictures were next because I'm not following this, but this is an example, and it's called the Highline Parkway in New York City. This is an original rail truss that ran through New York. If you've been there, you've probably seen it. It's an amazing tourist attraction. This is what it looks like as it was preserved in some green space, but more importantly, on this same trestle, you have bicycle paths and walkways that citizens and community activists or participants can travel through there. And I'm having a little technical difficulty, Algie, because I wanted to stop the pictures so that you could really take a good look. Here's an example of an aerial of what the bridge looks like. You will help determine what level of green space is on there, what level of benches are on there, how do you want to use it in terms of parkways, when do you want it open, when do you want it closed. All of these are things that can happen on this structure. This is going to be the first for Louisiana, but not the first of repurposing a bridge. I suggest to you that in 10 or 15 years, it's not going to take us that long to do it, but you will have created an entire culture around that bridge to connect communities on a regular basis. I see festivals, I see senior pictures, I see all kinds of fun things happening on this bridge once we're done. And it's happening because you all agreed to let the state spend the dollars to fix it, knowing that the state can't stay in the business of maintaining a park. And so it's a wonderful partnership that I believe are going to get all kinds of recognitions and awards, both from a planning and design standpoint, but it's also an element that we can go out and solicit additional funds to make it even nicer. So that's an example of the Highline Park. We don't have an official name for it, but it is going to be something that we're going to work with the locals to develop. Let me transition now from that one project to IIJA, because we've got some other wonderful speakers up here and I can smell lunch. So, this is the infrastructure bill, writ large. This is what Senator Cassidy has worked very hard on. It passed Congress with 19 Republican members of the Senate, which makes it more than bipartisan. It is a real transformative opportunity. But you can see on this package, on this slide, bridges, and I don't know where the pointer is. If you look at the upper left-hand corner there, oops, that didn't work out. But that didn't work out either. There's the pointer. $110 billion for bridges. $11 billion for safety. $39 billion for public transit, Sportrans, bus services. Rail, a whopping $66 billion. I wrote a letter yesterday to send to the President of Canadian Pacific talking about the importance of getting passenger rail along the I-20 corridor. Huge resources available to make that happen. No different than what you're looking at in terms of cybersecurity. The federal government's also looking at technology and vehicles. So they're giving us $7.5 billion, not just to Louisiana, for electric vehicle infrastructure. Electric buses, $7.5 billion. Reconnecting communities. I had a conversation with some advocates this morning from Allendale, and they talked about a federal level of discussion around how interstates have separated communities. They're actually dedicating resources to help reunite those communities, to make them safer, to make them more livable. No one can disagree with making communities safer and more livable by reconnecting them. It's also investing in ports, airports, water, broadband. This bill is transformative because we will not have addressed federal funding for infrastructure in any aggressive way, meaning more than you had in the last bill since the 80s. Here in Louisiana, we did it for the first time after 33 years this past legislative session. So it's long overdue. Some of the winners, I think, from this project funding will be things like the Inner City Connector, $865 million. That's the total cost of that in last year's dollars. If this bill passes, it can fund not all of it, but parts of it. While we're having lunch and it doesn't sound appetizing, you can eat an elephant, you just can't eat it all at one time. I can point no further than 220 to the state line where we had a small $30 million project. Today we've spent hundreds of millions of dollars and you've got 30 miles of interstate in about a 10-year period. So let's not focus just on that big figure. Focus on getting started. Focus on actually making an impact. That's one project that can benefit. We have strategic widening on I-20, not just in Monroe, but also in Shreveport, in Bossier. We clearly know that this interstate is over 50 years old. It was designed and built to live 50 years. David North, my district administrator in the back, will tell you there is no perpetual infrastructure. There is no maintenance-free infrastructure. We know that we have 60,000 plus cars a day traveling on 20. We have to rebuild it at some point. This bill sets us on a course to be able to do that. We also have projects in South Louisiana, like the new Calcasieu River Bridge. It's going to be $1 billion on I-10. It's a growth corridor for industry. We go all over the state and find these projects. But there are two ways we're going to get money out of this bill, and then I'm going to sit down after this. First, it's going to be formula funds. The formula funds are things that come to Louisiana just because the bill passes. Think about that. These are dollars that when the bill passes over the next 5 years, we're going to get in Louisiana. $4.8 billion for highways. That's the same $4.8 billion I've been spending over the last 5 years. So that's not new. What is new is $1 billion+ that I can spend just on bridges. $1 billion+ over the next 5 years I can spend on bridges. Going back to this slide, look at this, Calcasieu, $925 million, $3.5 billion, Mississippi River Bridge, $1.1 billion. Those are just bridges. So that's going to give me $1 billion to get started. Public transit, SporTrans, other regional transit systems will spend about $470 million in Louisiana by formula, meaning it's just going to come. EV infrastructure. Over the next 5 years, I will spend $73 million providing through the private sector electric charging stations at places like hospitals, schools, and working with all of our fueling stations so that if you can afford one of those cars, and you will one day, because the price point's going to come down. I want a Tesla like everybody else. I just can't afford it today. But when it does, I'm going to need to charge it. I'm going to want to go from Shreveport to Monroe and know that my battery will not die. We're going to have to provide that infrastructure as the private sector provides the infrastructure for the vehicles. Airports, $179 million, and then $20 million for resiliency. Look no further than what happened with Ida to see that we've got roads that are flooded, we've got roads that we know we need to elevate, we've got bridges that have starred out. Resilience dollars are essential. This is just the formula funds. That's half of the battle. The real victory is going to be on the competitive side, because I can now submit an application to a pot of $28.5 billion for economically significant bridges and major projects. Those are projects that I cannot afford on my own. Those are projects that we will need help to build. Not only does this bill provide about $6 billion over 5 years to Louisiana, but it allows Louisiana to compete for hundreds of other billions of dollars on special projects. Projects at the port, hurricane and storm risk reduction. How about that? We had 5 named storms last year. We've had 1 so far this year. 5 storms, $2.5 billion. I can tell you, Idaho is not going to get hurricane reduction money. Louisiana will get some of those dollars. More money for EV charging stations, weatherizations. Hundreds of thousands of people were out of electricity because of the electric grid. Here's an opportunity for us to fund an electric grid that will be sustainable during the most difficult times. And by the way, we had more people die from heat than we did from idle. Sad commentary. I will also tell you, during the whole idle window, we lost almost 400 people to COVID. That too is a sad commentary. And then last but not least, we can compete for real dollars. That's absolutely impressive, absolutely significant, and I think I can switch the mic without making too much noise. How about that? It falls. So, anyhow, this is important for Louisiana for one reason and one reason only. We all know that infrastructure matters. We know what happens when you don't invest in infrastructure. Things break, things cost more, people leave, businesses go elsewhere, our economy suffers. Infrastructure is economic development. Your Department of Transportation has been the Department of Transportation and Development since the 70s. That's important because we realize that rivers, railways, interstates, development occurs because of the infrastructure that we build and maintain on a regular basis. So, with that said, I'll leave you with two things. Jimmy Davis is on the way. It's funded. It's going to be a world-class project, and I am most proud of working with this community to deliver it. And then the second thing I'll leave you with is the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act is good for Louisiana. Its failure to pass simply means we're accepting the status quo of our infrastructure. And when you leave today and you hit a pothole, you get stuck in traffic, you see something you don't like on our infrastructure, think about what are we going to do about it? Say yes or say no. Either way, we live with those decisions. So God bless you and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. And you're absolutely right, at a federal level, we have got to fight for that funding, those dollars to come down, and we have to be competitive. So we appreciate all that you do. And our next speaker is Kent Rogers, and actually with all of these gentlemen up here, we all work, as Dr. Wilson said, very closely together for our infrastructure within our state. And it is not uncommon for us to travel to D.C. together, to work with our congressional delegation, to meet with the Federal Department of Transportation, to meet with federal associations up there, to get our finger on the pulse of what's happening. And a lot of times when you're going to these places at a federal level or state level, you're advocating for your community, but you're also advocating to keep the dollars that have already been assigned and allocated to your community, because someone, as he said, it's competitive, is out there, they're trying to get that very same dollar or removed from you. And so these are great partners up here. So we're going to go from a state level, and thank you for all of that great information, to a regional level with Kent Rogers, who is the Executive Director of North Louisiana Council on Governments, or we say NLCOG. And he's been with NLCOG since December of '91 and was named the Executive Director in 1993. NLCOG serves as our NPO, our Metropolitan Planning Organization for the Shreveport-Bossier urbanized area, overseeing federal and state transportation investments for the area. He earned his master's degree in geography and urban and regional planning for the University of Louisiana in Lafayette, where he also earned his undergraduate degree studying architecture. He served as the president of the Louisiana Planning Council, as a board member to the Louisiana Transportation Authority, and is currently serving as a member of the Transportation Committee for the Climate Initiatives Task Force established by Governor John Bell Edwards. Without further ado, Kent, come give us some regional perspective.
Just trying to back.
You have to talk in the mic.
I got it.
One more. And which way makes it go? Which way?
Forward,
We'll figure it out.
She'll help you.
Sure. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you all for coming out today. And thank you, Dr. Wilson. You might have noticed there was a little, some history there. Sean was in the undergraduate program at what was then USL, in the Urban and Regional Planning program. At the same time I was there, and working on my master's degree in Urban and Regional Planning from USL. It's now UL, but I still am very fond of the university and had a lot of great memories there. There's good history back between the two of us, and I think that relationship and that history has helped out with a lot of projects over the past few years, and a lot of these sort of innovative ways of doing things and getting some things done in our area. Just to let you know a little bit about NLCOG to start off with, NLCOG is a regional planning organization. We are, as Lisa mentioned, the MPO, or the Metropolitan Planning Organization for the urban MSA area for Shreveport-Bossier. That includes all Caddo, Bossier, Webster, and DeSoto parishes. That MPO designation comes from the governor of Louisiana and then Federal Highways and Federal Transit Administration. We have several technical groups that work with us to implement our programs and work to get those done. Okay, just to give you an idea of our board, the board of directors is made up of the administrators from the 4 parishes, and the 2 mayors from Shreveport and Bossier, and also Charlie Pennington, the Caddo Parish tax assessor, as an at-large member. The MPO is made up of those same members, but then also people such as Carlotta from the Planning Commission here, the Planning Commission in Shreveport, DOTD, the Port, Sportran, and all those different transportation providers within the region. Just to give you an update on a couple of our key mega projects. Probably the biggest one, and Sean mentioned, the very large price tag for this project, but it is a very important project for our area, and that's the intercity connector for I-49. We're still in the environmental process to get clearance on that project. Currently, there's 3 alternatives on the table. One is the build-through alternative. The second is the loop-around alternative. And of course, as with all projects, there's the no-build alternative that we have to consider. With this, probably the biggest thing and the biggest hurdle we've been going through with this project is what's called the cultural resource inventory and cultural resource process. There's a lot, because the intercity connector, the build-through alternative, passes through some historic areas of the adjacent area to downtown Shreveport. You have to inventory and connect all those dots of what parcels, what projects, what buildings are historic and have historic value to them, and how to, if you're going to take one or hit one, how do you mitigate that process? How do you avoid that process? How can you weave a roadway or weave a project in and throughout that area without disturbing those projects? That process has taken quite a bit of time. The great part of that, and as I say lately, that we can now see light at the end of the tunnel. DOTD and Federal Highways have both approved of that cultural work. It's now standing in the SHPO's office. We hope to have that back from SHPO within the month. We're going to give them a little extra leeway because of IDA. It was turned over to them the day before IDA hit, so we know that they were out of the office for a while, and we'll give them a little leeway on that. We have done some preliminary design and also some context-sensitive solution ideas for the area. Unfortunately, until that cultural part is approved, we can't share that with the public. One of the things that Dr. Wilson mentioned was the connecting people, connecting the neighborhoods, and keeping it as a vital area. Some of those context-sensitive solution ideas will be very important to doing that. We highly look forward to be able to work not only with the community at large, but also with the community directly within the Allendale area to look at ways to make this project and make the program work for everyone. ways to make it blend in with the neighborhood, amenities to add to it, bikeways, pathways, trails, parks, all those different things that can make traditionally what a lot of people would consider an eyesore as an interstate traveling through an area, to make it a beautiful area, and to be able to have it work for everyone involved. With that, we hope to have the draft environmental document completed and out in probably the first quarter of next year. That's the most important part, because that's the time frame in which it goes out for the public comment, goes out for everyone's comments. At that point, it becomes a very procedural process, and where it's just comments back, address those comments, send them to DOTD, send them to federal highways, and work the project through that procedural process at that point. All the study work, all the impacts, all those types of things are identified and taken care of. So we see some light at the end of the tunnel in that. In terms of funding for the project, we currently have a couple of different funding sources. One is we've had through, I believe it was in 2020, $100 million granted towards the project through the BP oil spill reallocation of funds. The second is something that's going to help not only this project, but all projects, and also help with that large amount of money that the Secretary spoke about with the federal infrastructure bill, and that was from Act 486 this past session. That act will slowly transfer the sales and use taxes from automobiles and automobile use into the Transportation Trust Fund for construction of projects. That's very important because, over the past probably 10, 20, 30 years, you've heard a lot of people talk about gas tax and trying to increase the gas tax, which is, unfortunately hasn't happened. But this provides an alternative to raising the gas taxes and slowly funnels those monies into the trust fund for use towards transportation projects. And that will help with not only this project, but a lot of them for that match support that will be required for the federal funds. The Interloop, 3132, another one of our larger mega projects. We recently had a public hearing on this project. The initial look at the project was to continue it from Florida Lucas, where it ties in now, and head it down to the I-69, future I-69 corridor. There's been some interesting developments, one of which we'll get to in a minute, that will go along with this. But because of this project and two of the other projects I'll speak of in a moment, we may actually be receiving what they call FONSI on this project, but that FONSI will have a no-build option as the selected alternative. That being said, part of that reasoning, is because of these next two projects. One of them is along with I-69, and it's the first project or first leg of what will be the future I-69 corridor through our area, and that's a service road project from the port over to I-49 in the Stonewall area, tying into LA 3276. That project would provide some very vital access from the port to 49 for the truck traffic and for access in and around South Caddo and North DeSoto parishes. That project is fully funded. Again, it's using a variety of different funds from the area. We have some older federal earmark funds, which unfortunately earmarks are no longer out there. But we have some older earmark funds that are going towards the project. We have some state funds that are going towards the project. Caddo Parish is putting up money, DeSoto Parish is putting up money, and the MPO is putting up some money. So as you can see, to get these bigger projects done, there's going to have to be a more collaborative effort in terms of funding and financing of these projects to get them done. What that roadway, here's kind of a look at what that roadway would accomplish. See if I can find the red button on here. Here we go. Port area is here. It would connect at the port, follow Robson Road, tie into Ellerby, the new service road for I-69 coming down to 3276, and then improvements to Stonewall Frierson over to the interchange at 49. So there would be an interchange, a 49 interchange that would provide traffic over to the port area. The next project, try to get this right, is a very interesting opportunity for South Caddo and South Bossier Parish. And this is a totally private project that's being developed. Provides a new bridge across the river, just north of the port. Provides what was originally one of the alternatives to the interloop study, which would connect from the Florinor Lucas area, wrap between the two developments, tie into LA1, cross the bridge, head up to 71, complete part of Bossier's Parkway system down, complete some other roadways up here. 100% privately funded. No public dollars going towards the project. The only caveat is the bridge. The bridge would be a toll bridge. But you don't have to use the bridge. You can use as much of this other infrastructure. Port could use the infrastructure getting down to LA1, use all the LA1 improvements and all the other improvements, no cost to the public. This project, this series of projects, along with the I-69 service road project, is basically the result of why
Are you clicker challenged?
I guess so. I'm going the wrong way. It's doing the same thing either button hit.
Here, she'll help.
There's no more.
Go back up to the interloop project. There. Because of the private development project, which would connect through here, and the 69 service road, the portion of LA1 between those basically serves the same purpose that that link would do. Therefore saving the public roughly about $100 million. So I think a no-build alternative down the line is a very possible alternative for the interloop. But I think there's, again, some interesting opportunities out there with the private sector and with multiple uses of funding for the I-69 connector. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over.
Thank you.
And good luck with this.
I think Jessica's not here. Thank you, Ken. Thank you very much. It's, you know, you have to put all the pieces together. So we started federal and a state, and we are a Twin City community, and so the river does join us and it does connect us together. And so the infrastructure that is happening on both sides of the river is critically important. So we're gonna see what's happening now. We're gonna move strictly to Bossier, and we're gonna talk about Bossier Parish and Bossier City. And I'd like to welcome Butch Ford, who is the Bossier Parish engineer for our parish. And he came to that position in 2003 and has worked on millions of dollars of projects for the parish. And y'all, I have to give him a hard time because I asked for his bio, and it is like a 2-page resume and then some. And I'm like, I look at it and every time I see it, I'm like, Butch, come on. This man is a wealth of knowledge and experience, and we are so honored to have him at our parish level and within our community. And he just really has helped us to make sure that we understand. He talks to where Lisa can understand in layman terms of what's going on. And he's a little funny too. So, but he's a member of many organizations. I could talk about them at a national level, state level. And so when I say Butch is engaged, he is engaged in the process. And I'm probably overselling him.
I'll pay you.
You okay? Okay. So with that, Butch Ford.
Thank and the sponsors for allowing us to come and participate in this event. I'm honored to be sitting here with this group. I look around the room though, and I just have to point out some things. These are our partners in this transportation battle that we're always fighting. I look over here at our federal and our state folks, and we're working with them every month, every time we need them, we call them and meet with them to try to help us with things. I look back there and I see Kelly Wells with the Bossier Parish, Shreveport Bossier Sports Commission. We're working with him. David North and his staff at the DOTD here at District 04 are always have open door to us and help us. I see Colonel Haddon and Keith Norwood, the school board, the sheriff back there. He's always supported us. The MPC over here, I think I talk to Carlotta once or twice a day, okay? So, and then I also want you to know that we don't get all this done without some help. And I noticed a couple of our engineers firms are here. I saw Andy Craig and I saw Charlie Coyle back there, and we couldn't get all this done without their help in all these problems that we have. And so I am glad to tell you that I got some bad news for y'all today. We just got our growth, census information on our growth, and Bossier Parish is not the 5th fastest growing parish in the state. We're the 8th now. We kind of dropped down a little bit, but we are growing. Ms. Parks' district doubled in size in the last 10 years, and so we're still growing. I checked our numbers this morning, and we're going to be a little bit down on housing starts. Instead of, in the parish, instead of 500 new families moving to Bossier, there's only going to be 400 this year. I think that, and Philip will tell you, some of that is due to the cost of materials that have gone up in the past 8 months. And so people are waiting to build those houses later. So I'm also glad Bill and I have been talking about the Swan Lake Road north-south corridor. And if you haven't ridden on that road, it's complete. We finished it and accepted it in August. It's a partnership between Kent, the state, the city. We had 80% of the money was federal money from the folks down here, 20% from the parish local, and then the city bumped in $2 million, about a $16 million price tag. If you've never ridden on that road before it was, we reconstructed it. It was a little narrow 2-lane road, and it's really real nice. And so if you get a chance, ride through there. I'm also, as you can see there, it's 3 lanes and part of it, and 2 lanes further north. Also, I want to tell you about our Phase 2 project. We just started. We're funding, the parish is funding Phase 2 of the north-south that will tie from Swan Lake North to Crouch Road. I'm sorry, I didn't have a picture of that. Yes, I do. Flip back 1 or 2. One more. So we finished half of that roadway. It's been completed. The other half is tied into Crouch Road. And I'm glad to say today that we are working in our budget through our budget session right now, and it's a $23 million price tag. And we are working with the police jurors to find the funds to complete that and start it next year. The clearing road project is underway, and it will be completed by the end of the year. And then you'll be hearing more about that in the future, because in the next few months, as the police jury approves our budget and allows us to get that started next year. It'll be 3 years. Why is this road significant? This road is very significant in Bossier. Back in 2000, Bossier City and Bossier Parish hired a consultant to do a comprehensive land use study, and this road was identified as something that was needed. And it's going to take traffic off of LA3 and Airline Drive, and it's going to open up thousands of acres for development in this area. And so that's why it's significant. And so we have been able to get some of the money from the feds, which has saved us from the locals from having to pay for the entire project. I'm also glad to say, you can flip through to that east-west road. One of our other projects that we identified in that comprehensive land use study was an east-west road from LA 3, just south of Chinaberry Square, all the way over to Bellevue Road at Winfield. And so we didn't dream, Butch Ford didn't dream these up. This consultant came in and said, we need these roads built because of that growth that's occurring in Phillip and Juliana's district. And so I'm glad to say that with the help of Kent, we're putting up $2.5 million of local funds to pay for the engineering. We have an agreement with DOTD to get that started, and Kent's going to give us $10 million, and we're going to build this project. This is about a $70 million project. We're going to have to build it in baby steps. We're going to have to do it in phases, but we're going to have a project built by 2024. And so thanks Kent for all your help in making that happen. With the new Brookshires coming at Wimple, the city's doing, with all the new growth along Airline, this is going to open up some more acreage for development, and it's going to make it ease of moving around this part of the parish. Next. Also, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about our FEMA issues we had. Back in 2016, we experienced a flood. And if you were all here, we had a 1,000-year event. We had 30 inches of rain in 5 days. And we flooded South Motion completely. All of our roads went underwater. And we had some arguments with FEMA. When a flood comes, and I want y'all to pray for these people in Laura and Ida, because I've got family down there and I've been watching what's going on. When water gets 2 to 3 feet in a home, the home is 50% damaged. Everything has to be gutted out of that house. If your car is parked in the driveway, your car is 100% ruined. And that road that's out there that you drive on, that local road, street, it's designed and it is damaged. And boy, did we have a tough time explaining that to people. But with the help, I gotta give these folks a shout out, because we kept hitting a brick wall. No. Because of their efforts, Cassidy and Kennedy and Johnson, they put arbitration back into the federal law, and we were able to go to DC January a year ago and argue in front of a panel of judges that and prove that these roads were damaged. And we won March the 18th. If it hadn't been for them, we would have never even been there. And today, I'm glad to say that we're receiving $32 million in FEMA funds to help rebuild, go to the next page, all of these roads that are in South. It starts about Highway 80 at Fifi Bayou South, and we're going to rebuild those with their funds. And then thanks to the governor, he went and so the FEMA money is a 75-25. So we were going to come up with $8 million. Well, hey, that can hit a parish pretty hard. The governor went to DC, and we were able to get a community development block grant, and we're going to get that $8 million back through his efforts. And so I've got to thank the governor, John, for making that happen. But pray for those folks down there in South Louisiana right now, because they're going through exactly what we would, much greater scale, but they're going to be dealing with the same issues we were dealing with. I mean, they have a program, HMGP program, and we bought 30 homes over the last 4 years using hazard mitigation grant money, so that these houses were repetitive loss structures that flood, every 5 to 10 years, and we went ahead with the police jury support and GOSEP support, and we purchased those. And so those are homes we don't have to worry about flooding anymore. And so that's great news, and thank y'all again. Now we'll talk about bridges. So We've also, Sean's got a program, that the feds give the state $15 million a year to replace bridges, and it's a grant program. And so we have participated in that since I've been here. And y'all, if you live up north of Benton, you know that there's two bridges right now that one of us being locally funded, the other is being funded through this program. Thank you, Sean. It's a $5 million grant that we received, federal dollars, that replacing the Linton Road Bridge. These two bridges, I was telling somebody earlier, those two bridges were built, and Cypress Lake was built by the state. They were built back in the late 70s, and they're worn out. It's time to replace them. And so they're replacing one for us, and then we're doing the other Flat River, Linton Road Bridge over Flat River. And so we are hopeful our bridge will be finished first of next year, and I've spoken to the project manager this week, and the Linton Road Bridge over Black Road is scheduled to be completed by next summer. And so bear with us if you live up there, David. Just tell the bus drivers it's gonna happen. We're also excited about another project that's going on in South Bossier. Keep flipping. Arthur A.T. Multi-Use Trail. If you talk to the Red River Waterway Commission, you would find that our trail in Bossier along the river is the most used of any of their trails. Okay? It's amazing how many people, and every time I drive down there, it's used. Well, Red River Waterway helped us get it down past Jimmy Davis down to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife property. And if you'll flip to that next page, and this project just started. It's under construction. It's going to take it from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife property all the way down to the Parkway High School. And so when we finished the other one, I used to watch the cross-country kids running down the shoulder of our parkway. And Bill, and with David Jones's help and Red River Waterway, we were able to get $1.8 million, no cost to the locals, and they're expanding this walkway for us. So it's you can go from Parkway High School all the way up to I-20 now on a walking path, biking path. So that's a great asset to Bossier, and we're excited that that's getting completed in the spring. Next. The other thing I wanted to mention to y'all when we're talking about infrastructure, and I have Win Kai, I believe, here with our water and sewer department, but the parish, about 10 years ago, parish was growing so fast, we had to get into the water and sewer business. And it's just something that we found ourselves, people were putting in putting in these package plants and dumping treated effluent in our streams, and it just wasn't good for the parish's growth. And so, with the help of our state folks and DEQ, we were able to build a $55 million sewer system. And so, thank goodness, we just received some of the American Rescue Plan money. We received $12 million this summer, and we're going to get another $12 million in the future next year. And we're going to take some of those funds, and we're going to start expanding out so that we can draw in some more development, which is good for the parish. And then we're also going to use some of those funds for broadband. Bill is busy. We're having meetings every week talking about how to improve broadband in the parish. And so that's you got to get educated on it, and we are real fast getting educated on it. So, but that's what we're going to be using the American Rescue Plan money for. And so, hey, I want to thank y'all for allowing us to come. I know it was a short presentation. If you want to have some fun, just come up and spend a day with me or a couple of hours, and you'll see exactly what we do. It's busy in the parish. All these folks moving in. I also want to tell you something else too that's important to us is the oil and gas activity in Bossier Parish is thriving right now. We have an oil play above Cypress Lake. They're going to drill about 50. It's oil. They're directional drilling in this formation, and they're going to drill about another 50 wells, we understand, if oil prices keep going up, over the next 5 to 10 years. In South Bossier, Haynesville Shale many companies are drilling. And one company just constructed a pipeline from Barksdale all the way south over to Caddo, and they're gonna drill another 30 gas wells. So I told you, bad news about our dropping in the second order for growth, but on the other hand, I wanna tell you that our revenues are up, our sales tax revenues are up because of the homes and people are spending money finally after last year's pandemic. And this oil and gas, every time they bring pipe in or bring materials there or buy fuel, they're paying sales tax to us, as well as the frac sand operations. Both of those are in Bossier, north of I-220 right now, and they are furnishing all the frac sand for the Haynesville Shale, and that has increased our sales tax as well. So if things look like they're looking good right now, we're going to continue to provide the services and the infrastructure in the future that we can. I'll take any questions if anybody's got a question. Hey, thank y'all very much.
Oh my goodness. I mean, we could have just a luncheon for each one of the speakers, right? I mean, we are putting it very compact in today's lunch, and we're going to narrow it down even a little bit more. We're just going to come to the city of Bossier City. And, you know, social media is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And it's a challenging thing at times too. And we fuss about traffic and barrels and cones and inconvenience and everything else. But when you see these presentations and you see what these gentlemen and their departments and their associates are doing, it's like, oh my goodness, we are moving forward and we are progressing. So I'm excited to bring to you today, and it's actually, I was telling Ben, I said, I think this is the first time that we've, since I've been at the chamber, that we have literally brought the city engineer before you all to talk about specifically Bossier City. Ben Rauschenbach is the Bossier City operations leader for Manshak Consulting Group and one of the firm's senior project managers. He manages Bossier City's public utility department as well as serves as Bossier's interim city engineer. He's a registered professional engineer with over 2 decades of experience in civil engineering field with a focus on public infrastructure design, operations, and management. A graduate of Louisiana Tech University with a bachelor's degree in civil engineering and is a Class 4 certified water and wastewater operator. He did serve as a member of the Bossier Metropolitan Planning Commission Board from 2004 to 19 and received a Young Engineer Award from the Louisiana Engineering Society in 2011, and again was honored as a Young Professional of the Year with the Shreveport Chamber of Commerce. So please welcome Ben Rauschenbach.
Just want to, thank you all for enduring so many presentations by engineers. They don't let us out of our holes very often, so I'm going to try to make it a little more lively. Thank you, Lisa, for inviting me. I'm honored. Some of y'all may know, but I am a longtime resident of Bossier City. I learned today that my daughter was accepted into ULL, so I'm proud she's going to be she's going to be following behind some good people. Unfortunately, after watching her dad engineer for a couple decades, she's going to pursue, other avenues. But I was born, believe it or not, just up the road here on Preston Boulevard. My father was a B-52 navigator in Vietnam. Both my parents are South Louisiana natives, and I graduated from Bossier High School in 1994. Is there any Bossier High graduates in here? A couple. Well, they had a great math teacher, Miss Albritton, and combined with some of my, mechanical curiosities, she's who got me into this profession, and I'm blessed to have been able to serve as an engineer in this community my entire professional career. My wife also was a graduate of Bossier High. I graduated from Louisiana Tech. Unfortunately, I can't even get my daughter to go look at it. But I won't hold that against her. Just happy to have her in the state. Back in 2016, I was offered an opportunity to work with Manshack as Bossier's operations, and since then, we've seen a lot of growth here in Bossier City. So, don't want to beat up too much on that, but as we got involved in it, little did we know how much was physically going on in Bossier City. So I'm going to talk a little bit about infrastructure, streets, but also kind of pepper in a few other little projects that Bossier's had over the last year or so. So currently, we have over $136 million in ongoing design and construction projects. 127 million of those are currently in construction, 9 in the design or bid phase with 18 projects under construction, and a bunch of subdivision development, commercial development as well. All of that runs through the city's engineering department. One of our biggest, most marquee projects is the Walter O. Bigby Carriageway. We've completed the first phase of that runs along Highway 80, starts at the intersection of Traffic Street and ends right there at Old Benton Road. And we are currently breaking ground on phase 2. Phase 2 is a $37.6 million construction project. J.B. James is the contractor that has been awarded that work. We met with their team earlier this week on the beginning phases of that. Coleman Street, right there back behind my alma mater. I don't know if y'all get back there very often, but that's in the East Bank District. We work with DOTD on that project. It's about 46% complete. We're showing it a little behind, but we're told by DOTD they're managing the project that they expect, especially Trackco, that will be complete with that on time. It's a neat project that will enhance that whole area of downtown Bossier. Swan Lake Road, we put this on the list, been working with Butch Ford and his team over the last year. This is Bossier's section that runs basically from I-220 north to the intersection of Monica Lot. We've been in communication as recently as today regarding some of the signaling challenges and other things that we're gonna begin working on once that becomes Bossier City's corridor there. Highway 71 Streetscape, that's a project down in South Bossier. We just recently completed a beautification project that includes, in addition to a sidewalk, you see there, new landscaping, lighting, and the like. And we're continuing that work today. That was just the first phase of a much larger project. Melrose Drive extension, I learned by our new CAO that this was a very publicly informed project, but recently we completed about $1 million of work on Melrose, extending it out to Plantation Drive. We need to do a little better job at communicating that to the public, but that's an important project for that area. Innovation Drive Phase 2, another big win in Bossier City, big project that was complete here recently. It was a $14 million project, and we're already dealing with some of the good problems, we call them, of how do we handle the intersection traffic and things related to this project. Citywide streets and sidewalk improvements. This was a project that was given to me and my team. Clinton Patrick, my assistant engineer, is here, has been handling this day in and day out. We currently have 6 contractors in the city doing a multitude of improvements, whether that be rebuilding or reconstructing asphalt pavement, sidewalks, concrete panels, and the like. And trying to keep all of those customers happy while you're doing it is a definite challenge. The East Bank Fire Station, this is a new project of ours. You can see it down the East Bank area, about a $3 million fire station that's coming up out of the ground. That's a recent picture there. We're excited to see that project come about. Many of y'all may be aware of the Louisiana Technology Research Institute. That's a project that is really state funded through FB&C and being administered through the city of Bossier City. And that thing is really starting to take shape out there. Like a lot of the projects, and I'm sure all of the gentlemen up here can appreciate the weather has been brutal over the last 18 months and has put a lot of construction behind, and unfortunately this project is no exception. This is a cool facility. Bossier City recently renovated and expanded their animal control building. The outside honestly doesn't do it a lot of justice. I would encourage you, if you're into animals and looking to adopt animals, it is beautiful inside. That is a really cool project, and we're proud to see that complete and give these animals a new home. Tinsley Athletic Ball Fields. This has been an interesting project. I've learned more about ball fields and turf and drainage and all of the various nuances associated with baseball than I ever cared to dream about. Many of y'all know Bossier's big in this community, or baseball's big in the community, and there are many, many people looking to see this open. We are told by the contractor that the park will be ready by the middle of November, and we're working diligently to help them get there. Again, this is a project that was plagued by weather and other things with supply chains and things like that. A couple of additional traffic projects that we have. Highway 71 South, some new lighting down there. We're getting close to being complete with the design, and you'll see those new lights starting to come up. We're working on a left turn lane at Golden Meadows. We've been working to optimize signaling in Bossier City. It's a big problem along Benton Road, Airline, and 71 South. That's further complicated by all of the COVID challenges, because when you go out there, and we've done it, we've studied the traffic patterns, and it's very difficult to make sense of those under the pandemic. So we're looking to get that back up and running with school back in session and things getting a little bit more normal. Hopefully we can get that project underway. I would like to mention, we've been working with the parish, and I don't know, Butch, if you mentioned this, but at the capacity project at I-220 and LA3, really it's the parish's project. They have really done all the heavy lifting that in concert with DOTD. We just get the opportunity to write a check and they get to have all the fun, but we're working with them on that. And when do we expect to see that?
It's been very soon.
Soon, so very soon.
It's out for bid.
So that's a much needed project. And of course, many people don't know, but there's close to 100 signals in Bossier City, and the computer software for those signals are outdated. And so we're working right now on updating that information. Currently, we have to plug in laptops that you can't even update anymore. So that's a big need and something we've been working on over the last year or so. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions. All right.
Did you say the traffic synchronization is due in part to COVID, lack of synchronization?
No, ma'am. The issue with us being able to study how to improve those signals and actually getting good traffic information, if you try to compare that data with data just the year prior, it's all over the map, and I'm sure Dr. Wilson could. I'm like you, and I'm a water nerd, by profession, so I was like, come on guys, I drive these streets up and down all day long.
It's pretty obvious where the backup bar to the average driver, which I think
It is, but it's difficult to signal them based on the current traffic patterns because there's not a whole lot of rhyme or reason. It's interesting. So we're back in the throes of that with school back in and things getting more normal. But it is a very, very challenging component of our infrastructure. And I drive the same roads everybody else does. So.